I had an idea to do a piece about an aging magician.
Who is on his last tour. And he calls Harold.
Who pretty much lives on his own. He could have been a magician or wanted to be a magician, but he's ended up as a clockmaker.
And they say, well, he can figure this out if anybody can. So he asks him to rush out to Coney Island. And in order to get out there in time, he'd have to take the F train. But Harold doesn't take the F train. And we find out the reason he doesn't take the F train is that as a boy, his life changed on the F train when his father was stricken with a heart attack. The major trauma of his 11-year-old life is just watching him die on the F train. And he hasn't taken the F train since that time.
We're all three interdisciplinary artists who feel very comfortable kind of moving across disciplines.
I represent the audience within that team, and I'm trying to be the audience and see whether I respond to something or whether something is confusing me. Sometimes good to be confused.
I've actually written music without words that Rinde then has gone in and replaced words into, redefining the way things should go.
You had sort of these elements on stage. You had Rinde pretty much on his own, in his own world as Harold.
There's a choir that joins in too, which is a representation of a kind of idea of childhood.
They play many different characters in the piece that help take Rinde on this final journey.
They're used as ghosts in a way.
Through singing, through speaking, but also through really clever ways that Julian has brought them into the fabric of the piece. So at times they yield projection screens, at times they do shadow puppetry.
There's one moment where he imagines running on his father's shoulders, running down the Midway. Paola's written this kind of beautiful cascading thing that the choir, all these counterpoint of melismas. In his mind, the running is happening, and they are kind of illustrating it through the tone poem.
You have a string quartet, and then you have Mark's machine.
Our fourth collaborator, and really a huge part of the soul of the piece, Mark Stewart.
He built this thing with me in mind, but it's a kind of bald-headed, big old face that with ears.
An instrument that eventually would be the set for the whole piece. This kind of machine that takes our aging magician into the afterlife.
And he's going to be transformed into a different version of himself. Life somehow opens up, life becomes more magical.
It's very much a New York story, but it's also a story of what magic means in all of our lives, both from a children's perspective and from the perspective of someone who's on the brink of death.